I take it that everybody here, like, does anyone believe that aliens have visited Earth?
Not me.
I've not seen evidence for it.
No, sir. Not this time, anyway.
I hope not.
You hope not. I think that'd be awesome.
Because if they visited in the recent past, say 2016, they're not coming back. Ever.
Hello and welcome to Trolling with Logic, where we bring the hammer down on pseudoscience, ignorance, and unreason on a bi-weekly basis. I'm your host, Nathan. With me is Cal.
Alright, how's it going?
It's going well. And Jen?
Hey, I forgot my clothes, but not as bad as somebody.
And Kitch.
I did have a great line opening, but now it's gone.
I apologize for that. That's my fault.
And joining us as our guest today is Buck Mulligan, who is known probably to many of our listeners as a frequent host of the League of Nerds podcast. And we were going to do a movie review of a fundamentalist Christian propaganda film called Rocket's Your Decision, but Buck hasn't watched it, so we're all about communication here. And so we're going to talk about something else today. And
I'm just wondering, did you do an alternative viewing, Buck? Seeing as that's the phrase of the day.
Alternative viewing. I should have just sat and bullshitted. I should have just
oh yeah, I remember that bit.
I remember
that.
Explain that bit. Oh yeah, now I remember it very clearly. The guy with the hair and the
To
thing.
be fair, you could have guessed most of it.
I'm sure their logic was sound throughout.
It's a standard Christian propaganda film, but that's for next week, guys.
Yeah,
Spoiler alert. Major spoiler alert.
It's basically the reefer madness of anti-rock movies.
Okay. I didn't even know anti-rock movies were a genre till now.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Anyway, Nathan, carry on.
So we are talking about alien contact in general today. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yep, this is...
It's something that I suggested, so I'm just, some shit that I threw out there as an apology.
So,
I was touched by an alien.
All right.
Yeah.
That's why you voted leave.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, Buck, as the leading expert and well-researched man you are on this topic, take it away.
This thing that I just pulled out of my ass last second, about 18 seconds ago. I stumbled upon a Stefan Mercerschach Molyneux video, and basically he was explaining that if aliens made contact with us, that clearly if they have that technology, it's because that they were libertarians, because only libertarians, seriously, only libertarians would ever come to this sort of technology, and they wouldn't come to steal our resources; they'd be coming to trade with us. And I was sitting listening to this, and I'm like, so this species, which has potentially fast, 99% the speed of light. So this species is so many thousand years ahead of us in technology, wants to come and trade with the species that invented the iWatch and then put Pokemon Go on it.
Yeah.
That's just...
And whose greatest adventure for 2016 was exploding phones.
Exploding phones.
And it sounds really Earth-centric, like projecting our political systems out into the universe. Like if there's a civilization thousands or millions of light years away, he's assuming that they have the same exact or approximating the same kind of political systems that we would have. Doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, what would alien contact mean for humanity?
Brexit.
Brexit.
Or Galaxit.
Galactic. We're voting ourselves out of this.
Voting ourselves out the Milky Way.
Well, under a Trump presidency and with Brexit going on, it wouldn't fare well for anybody if aliens showed up.
You don't think it would be one of those things that would like pull everybody together into this massive sort of, we are the human race and we will fight a common enemy? All that kind of stuff, like you see in movies all the time.
Okay, right. So that's when I was saying contact, I was meaning the fairly like peaceful, or even just finding something out there.
Yeah.
We find a signal.
Right, yeah.
Right. So like a phone call or something, they ring up and go, look.
Not
hey,
even a phone call. If we
Like
pick
the,
up a radio signal, we pick up their version of Seinfeld. You know, just something like that.
Yeah.
You know, we've got this new satellite constellation that they're putting up there, which is almost ready, and some of it is kind of already failing because they've got their stupid atomic clocks fucked up in them. Right? What if that plus the newest iPhone is like the method of contact, and all of a sudden people with iPhones are just getting mysterious calls from somewhere in the galaxy and they can't translate it?
Yeah, it's possible.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, come on.
I was going to ask, did anyone else here watch Arrival when it was on at the cinemas?
Yeah, I did. This is
Because
fucking great.
Because that addresses kind of quite a lot of the issues with like an initial contact. Just like I said, what was the simple question? What is your purpose? And they said like just even sending that sentence just to a completely alien species, it would take so much understanding and kind of trying to bridge this gap. Even just that initial contact would just be so difficult.
And if they were, this is, and Neil deGrasse Tyson put this out. It's we share 99.9% of our DNA with chimpanzees, right? A chimpanzee, basic tools, maybe. Very, very, it can just about figure out how to stick a twig down an ant hole and tick out ants. Just about, and that's some of the smart ones, right? That's 99.9% identical to us, right? So the chimpanzees don't understand mathematics, they don't understand language, they don't understand. But we're like this. We're not even a mystery to them. They see us and they're scared of us. They're not really that concerned with us, right? So if there is something, just even that small amount different from us out there, that we aren't even going to be fit to comprehend it, we could be staring straight at it and completely missing it.
You're talking about Donald Trump there, aren't you?
His dim, uncomprehending eyes.
Glorious leader, I like to call him. So, did anything ever come off that? Remember the domosphere, where they thought that potentially that there was a star. It was covered in an unusual way because it's and so what they someone is it Dyson? What's that called again? Like a Dyson sphere.
A Dyson sphere. A lot of people misunderstand that concept.
I'm probably one of those people.
Yeah, everyone thinks it from the Star Trek episode. That's probably where you came across it, is it?
Mm.
But the idea is that you could build like a huge chain of satellites to envelop a sun and harness all the energy out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the part people remember, but it was part of a bigger philosophical question that if you're at the technological level where you could do that, it would be an utter waste of time just to do it, because you would probably be able to do so much. There's so many other better things you could do with your time. It would just be, it's so huge. And if you can do that, then you can do far more practical things. That's kind of the problem this Dyson guy was going for.
Is it the same guy who invented the Dyson Hoover?
Yes.
No.
The exact same person.
Was it?
Is that the same person?
No, I'm not joking.
It's a giant sun Hoover.
Freeman Dyson.
That
was the guy's name. Yeah. Well, that's what everyone remembers the Dyson sphere from, was an episode of Star Trek which involved one. And again, they just kind of embellished it a little bit to make it a bit more kind of accessible to an audience.
Oh, cool.
But I'd say, I'm just basically about alien contact. The other good source it's another science fiction, is Solaris. I don't know if anyone's seen the...
It's on the list to watch. The original.
The original is the good one. The remake with
George
Clooney. George Clooney is not that great, but...
I quite enjoyed it still. I enjoyed the musical score more than anything else, though, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you read the original book, it's about that idea that basically the planet was actually trying to communicate with them and they just couldn't comprehend what it was trying to do. And it's the whole thesis of the book is that, if we ever meet an intelligent life, like Stanislav Lem's opinion was, we'd just never be able to communicate with it because it will just be completely alien to us.
Ants have no comprehension that we're there. They maybe they'll avoid us, but they don't recognize a human being or this is another living thing or anything. It's just avoid this thing, maybe.
Yeah, but how do you know? Have you spoken to an ant?
No, they ignore me every time I try to. So I've come to that conclusion.
Really? Maybe they just
my family is very, very distant as well.
So our basic idea of like alien contacts generally is Independence Day. So R.I.P. Bill Paxman.
Yes, I see what you did there.
You see what I did. It is that the aliens would come and we would just fight them off, and which is so fucking silly on every level. So again, right, so you take the difference in technology between the soldiers who fought during World War One and World War Two.
Mm-hmm.
There is absolutely no comparison. Like any modern developed country in 1940 would beat any country in 1910. So a society that has mastered space travel, if it wanted Earth for whatever reason that I can't really comprehend, it would have Earth. It wouldn't even. It's like the idea of like comparing it to the Native Americans to the Europeans contact.
Do you think it's quite an egotistical thing, the idea that someone would want to come and steal our stuff when there's billions of other planets to choose out there?
Well, we still haven't found any. Okay, right. This idea that they come for natural resources makes no fucking sense whatsoever. As there's water and steel and anything else just floating out there in space. Yeah. So if they were coming, I'd imagine it would be real estate. It's quite a nice planet, or else
slaves maybe.
Do you ever watch Dark Matter's videos?
Yeah.
He done an amazing video and it was chilling, and it was just about an alien race who seen Earth, and they were conservationists, and they seen that one species had, without an apex, without a predator above it, had sort of just taken over and destroyed everything else. That species being us. So the example that he used was Yellowstone Park. When there were no wolves in the park, the deers just basically the deers and the elk and everything just sort of destroyed everything, and no trees could grow because they would eat them beforehand, and their numbers were out of control. So, was in the early 90s, wolves were released back into Yellowstone,
right?
And they started to control the population, started to take down the numbers, and more trees started growing. It made the ecosystem more correct. And so his idea was that this alien race would come to Earth and leave a new apex predator, which would just kill humans, so that the ecosystem could survive, so that other species could come back and, not die off. I thought that seems a much more realistic idea than something coming to steal our coal.
Yeah. Well, because there's plenty of other places to go to resources. You wouldn't really even need to go to an inhabited planet.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of raw resources floating around on the other planets anyway.
And again, you'd have to imagine that any species that could travel these distances again it doesn't even look at the world in the same way. It doesn't look at resources the same way that we look at resources. It doesn't see, look at some shiny rocks and go, oh, these are valuable.
It would be kind of analogous to family or a group having a state-of-the-art RV with all the accoutrements, all the modern gadgets attached, and driving all the way across the country. They're prepared for everything. They've got everything they need for their journey. They pass like a little convenience store in the middle of nowhere, and they decide that the reason they drove across the whole country is to go to that one little store and rob it. I don't know. It's kind of analogous to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
But have any of you guys watched Rick and Morty?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite show.
Rick and Morty.
I remember in the last episode of the second season when Earth became part of the, I don't know, spoilers, maybe?
Galactic Alliance.
Sure. The Galactic Alliance, it became a sort of holiday destination for the galaxy. Maybe that could be a reason why aliens would want to travel here.
Or it would turn into something like the Tralfamadorian Zoo from Slaughterhouse-5, where it's just like an exhibition for aliens to observe our species.
Yeah, it's James talks about, because James Gurney has seen a UFO. His whole family's seen something, and his father's in aviation, and they've seen something that his father couldn't explain and none of them could explain. But what James talks about, he says, when you try to when you try to say, well, no, there definitely isn't aliens here, there definitely aren't, his argument is potentially. And I mean, like, you know, he is a scientist after all, but what he says is, we watch penguins from space. We use satellites to track penguins. So could possibly something be just sitting there just watching us and making nature documentaries on it?
Yeah, sort of like, was it that South Park episode there where Earth is revealed to be a reality TV show?
Yeah, Jesus. Which makes more sense than Trump, to be honest.
That it would give some kind of rationale to that.
Yeah, that's the only. Literally the only rational explanation for that.
Yeah, they just said, "Oh, we need a plot twist in this now."
People have joked that 2016 was the year that time travelers from the far future came to try to stop Trump from being elected, and that's why the year was so weird all around. But they failed.
There's a picture of Kanye West shaking Donald Trump's hand, and in the background there's this other black fella, and he's standing there just completely shocked and disgusted in the back, and someone just commenting on it, he looks like he's a time traveller who just arrived too late.
Because I suppose the one real reaction that would be very interesting from an alien contact would be how would the religious establishments respond to it.
They would become, I think, more divided than ever. The fundamentalists would think it's the Antichrist, and the more moderate liberal Christians would think that it's like some kind of manifestation of Christ, and the New Age people would kind of side with them, but they would think
some of them would think it was the Nephilim, the angels, and that it was just part of the beginning of the end, and that you know, end times were here, and
but I think
they were
I have heard
raptured for being good.
I think I have heard that the Vatican, their policy is that if there is life out there, either they haven't heard about Jesus, so they're okay, don't need to be saved, or when they come here, they're going to need, so they just kind of cover their bases.
Did you guys see the article that Ken Ham wrote about how aliens can't be saved?
No.
Because he wrote an article about it, and it went viral for a little while on the internet. He argued that because Jesus died on Earth, and because Jesus was human, that therefore, if there are any alien beings out there in the universe who are as intelligent or more intelligent than us, they're going to hell because Jesus died on Earth and not on those other planets, and plus Jesus was human, so his sacrifice couldn't cover them.
Yeah, but how can he say that? Because he must believe that if the Bible was written purely for human beings and doesn't mention aliens at all, if aliens came along, they might have had their own Bible. They might be like Earth times 2, and they had their own Bible, they had their own history and all that kind of stuff. So God had their plan for them as well.
Going on his own logic, then wasn't the whole reason why Earth is damned in the first place, humanity is damned in the first place, is because of the eating of the apple, which took place on Earth.
Yes,
therefore,
and Ken Ham actually
Jesus
brought that up in the article. He said that when Adam sinned and ate the fruit, that sin spread instantaneously throughout the whole universe.
But it doesn't say that in the Bible, does it? It says that humanity was damned and that Earth.
This is from Ken Ham's Bible, so.
Ken Ham's Bible. Oh my God.
He has a book, remember.
But even if there was aliens, that would just completely destroy a literal interpretation of the Bible.
Yeah.
Unless the Ark was actually like in... what's that? Have you been watching that, The Expanse? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I'd like to read the books first.
Yeah. Well, I won't spoil it for you, because you'll know about it in the very first series, pretty much the first episode anyway, but it's got Mormons in it.
Mm-hmm, I've heard
and
that.
they're building a giant spaceship. That's like an ark as well.
That's maybe what probably is going on somewhere, to be fair.
Do you reckon he's got one of those missile silos somewhere and he's just building a giant space ark?
Oh, please tell me that's what Ken Ham is building. That would give me so much more respect for the man. An intergalactic space arc with missile
The normal
silos.
arc is just a cover. Underneath that, there's a giant underground silo, and he's just.
When
got
did
these
Christianity
giant-
become fucking awesome?
Didn't Eric Van Daniken in Chariots of the Gods, didn't he like pull instances from biblical texts where he said, hey, this could maybe kind of be a spaceship, like the fiery chariots?
Yeah.
Cool.
This stretch that these people. So there's oh my god, one of my favorite things in the whole wide world was the Ancient Aliens guy, and Joe Rogan asked him about did he think that started talking to him about some recent UFO sightings, and Joe Rogan asked him, did he think they were real, and he went, I don't know, I'm an expert in ancient aliens.
I'm a respectable recruit.
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Giorgio Tsoukalos or David Childress?
Yeah, the meme guy, basically.
Meme guy.
Right. I don't understand how, on that subject, I don't understand how the other guys didn't get memes made about them as well, because David Childress is so adorable. Especially when he says, it could have been some kind of alien. And it's like, that is a catchphrase. Some kind.
It's hard to write that down inflection-wise in text. You
I
gotta hear it.
suppose.
Is that the guy that did Secret Space Program?
That was, oh God, what was his name?
Story Musgrave.
Well,
He was one of the guys that was mentioned in it.
the Secret Space Program that I'm thinking of is the one that was done by, damn it, the guy who thinks that the rings of Saturn are built by giants.
Yeah. I bookmarked the video link that you sent, and I never got around to watching it, so I don't remember his name either.
Yeah, fuck it. Damn it. He's one of my favourite people. He's one of my favourite loonies. I can't remember what his fucking name is. I'll come back to it anyway. But he's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that he's the same guy who proposed that on the moon there are glass structures and they're visible in all photographs if you just put them through Photoshop.
If you paste one on in Photoshop, then it's very visible.
No, he takes the original ones from the archive, and then he enhances them in various different ways until he sees artifacts in the images, and he says the artifacts in the images are evidence of structures on the moon. And people are going to him, well, if there were glass structures on the moon, they would be so reflective that the moon would be 10 times brighter than it actually is at the moment, for starters. And the rovers would have been smashing into them. But then the same guy thinks that giants built the rings of Saturn.
What?
He thinks giants built the rings of Saturn.
Like, what kind of giants? Like
Like giants. He's non-specific giants. Just giants. Because they had to be giant to be able to build things of that size. And therefore they were giant.
I just had a lot of regular sized people.
So I'm picturing, like, a bunch of Goliaths in space just floating around building it.
Goliaths in space.
So now we have space Jews and now space giants.
Space giants. Who wins? Who wins in the fight between the space Jews and the space giants?
Ooh,
Wait a minute.
This conversation could go in a dark place right now. I think.
In his talk, which I did a very, very short video on, but I didn't do a massive debunk of it, he basically suggests that the rings of Saturn, basically, he brings up a picture of a suspension bridge. And he goes, look at that suspension bridge and look at the way the trusses come together underneath it. And then look at the satellite ring with this CGI composite over the top of a similar kind of structure. Doesn't it look the same? And all the people in his audience are like, wow, it's like exactly the same. Yeah, the rings of Saturn are just a giant suspension bridge. I'm like, wait, but gravity is still going to be pushing inwards towards the planet. The center of gravity is the center of the planet. So why would you have a horizontal suspension bridge around the outside of a planet when the center of gravity would mean that everything would fall towards the planet from the ring?
This pattern seeking and like trying to make comparisons between drawings and other things and make them similar seems so childish to me. It's something that children do.
Richard C. Hoagland. That's it. Richard C. Hoagland. And then you've got Michael Tellinger, who's my other favourite nutter. I love Michael Tellinger. He's the nicest guy ever. He's so enthusiastic. But he thinks that stones can make giant rocks levitate if they vibrate at the right frequency.
I've seen him. This is his explanation on the building of the pyramids.
Yeah, the Pyramid Stonehenge. He's the guy who followed on Von Daniken and the other guy's work. I've forgotten the guy who Von Daniken bases his stuff on, but they all kind of follow on from each other. And I think the original person or persons believed that they'd received a message from an ancient ghost that spoke to them in a DMT trip or something like that.
These guys were all really big into DMT, funny enough.
Yeah, big time. Big time. But his whole thing is that the human race is a slave race. Now, he's not specific always on exactly whether it's slaves to aliens, which is one of the things that I saw. It was like an alien race that controlled the Nephilim or whatever. And the other thing is slave race of the gods or God. And apparently humanity was born in Africa and raised to be slaves with this vibrating frequency of these stones, these magic stones that look like ice cream cones and can be knocked together and pointed in a certain direction, drew gold out of the ground in Africa to give to the aliens.
And who are the aliens?
It's totally plausible, isn't it? I don't know. He's not, you know.
I have, for whatever reason, the Portuguese seem to be really fucking into conspiracy theories. And I work with two Portuguese guys, and one of them subscribes to that idea and takes it this bit further. So, like, totally subscribes to that idea that the devil's actually the good guy, lost, God was the controlling and the slave master, and then so the Bible was his bit of propaganda. And so he's trying to discredit Satan. And so he's like, oh, Jesus, he went into some detail about this here, but it is utterly fucking insane. But, like, people have these beliefs.
It does sound like it would make a good novel, though. A good, like,
I don't even know. I don't know.
Slave Species of the Gods. That's Michael Tenger's novel.
Slave Species of the Gods.
Yeah.
It's like one of those pulp fantasy novels you find from Daw Books or any one of those major publication centers that put out a bunch of pulp novels based on sci-fi and fantasy. It sounds like one of those kind of titles.
Yeah, but it's just a shame that the kind of basis for the belief is the very, very simple, is it pareidoia or whatever it's called, looks like, therefore it is. So if something that was made out of stones put in a circle hundreds of years ago looks like a computer chip, then it's just a large version of a computer chip, obviously. Yeah, it's the same thing when they look at the layout of the pyramids at Giza or various other old structures. They see the layout and they go, look, it looks like a circuit board. Therefore, it's a giant circuit board and it's channeling Earth energy to the sky.
And creationists love the cave paintings with like these creatures with like spiked backs. Look, it's a Stegosaurus. Dinosaurs lived with humans.
Yay!
There's a series which I suggest everybody. It's called Ancient Aliens Debunked, right? So basically, it's a view. So it's your guy just goes.
I've read the website.
Have you read the website? It's Jesus. See the guy who does that. He's a Bible literalist. That guy's waiting. So this extremely well researched website, right, where he just breaks down every argument made in the first couple of episodes of Ancient Aliens. Believes that Jesus is coming back and thinks he has worked out where he's coming back to, which I thought was insane because I thought this guy's like he has researched so like the stuff that he knew. I thought was just, it blew my mind that someone could find that amount of information in these particular bits and pieces, and then to find that he also believes that. It's odd, isn't it?
It's like David Avocado, Starfish, whatever his name is, potato cannon wolf thing. I mean, it's like him going, well, aliens are bullshit, but chocolate is an octave of sunlight. But this is the thing, everybody has got some irrational beliefs. Everybody's got some weird beliefs, and they just don't even know it yet, because perhaps they haven't considered it enough. Perhaps they haven't thought about it enough. And that's important to remember whenever I think you're speaking to someone else and you're like scratching your head thinking, how the fuck did they come up with that?
Yep.
You just got to kind of reflect on something in the past or currently that you might believe that you don't have a good reason for and put it in that kind of context, I suppose.
Yeah, we had Professor Joe Uscinski on our show 2 weeks ago. It just got uploaded this weekend, and he researches conspiracy theories, and he makes a big point of saying that based on his research and the numbers he's come up with in his data, that there are literally millions of conspiracy theories out there. And based on the number of people who believe in some form of conspiracy theory, him and his research partner have concluded that every person probably believes in at least one conspiracy theory and probably doesn't know it or realize it.
I think there's I was talking about pheromones in one of the podcasts I was in last, and there's a guy, physics police, who, Jesus, he just, everything I say fucking corrects me. But there really isn't any good science or anything that humans use pheromones part of attraction. And
but wait, that's not necessarily true. If you read or listen to the book 10% Human by Alana Collin, they have done some studies where the microbiome of the body is actually what creates, based on your immune system, creates a scent. They did a particular one with women where they had women smelling shirts of guys, and the ones that they were most attractive to, they tested and tried to find out what the immune system of their favorite shirt was. And they found that if they weren't on the pill, they were attracted to the immune system of the guys who had the most different immune system to them.
Yeah, this is what I remember. This is what I was heard. I couldn't find like anybody like. I heard about that because this was one of the studies that I thought I'd reference when I was replying back to him, but then I couldn't find. I didn't look hard enough, but just how many people were involved in these studies and how thorough they were and stuff like that. There, because when I started thinking about it, it sounds like something that could potentially be bullshitty.
I've got the studies. Evidence for MHC correlated perfume preferences in humans.
Oh, perfume preferences?
Yeah.
The placebo effect. Like, do you listen to Skeptics with a K?
Occasionally, yeah, I do.
Mike's just taken the placebo effect like completely apart. It's not a thing that exists in people. It's not. It's just something that exists in the data.
All right.
And
wait, are you saying that homeopathy works?
Yes. Exactly. Oh, but alien. So, like, I take it that everybody here, like, does anyone believe that aliens have visited Earth?
Not me.
I've not seen evidence for it.
No, so not this time anyway.
I hope not.
You hope not. I think it'd be awesome.
Because if they visited in the recent past, say 2016, they're not coming back ever.
There's a whole slew of reasons why it's not plausible that they did.
Probably not. Definitely not.
So, okay, right, so that's everybody's leaning towards very likely not. What do you think? Do you think that we're going to... Because SETI say, like, every year they say we're 10 years away from finding some evidence. You know, it's always 10 years away from, finding something.
I don't think they can really predict it, though,
can they? They can't predict it. So what was the name of the... what do you call the scientist who done this calculation based on...
Drake equation.
Drake equation.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm missing something, but is the Drake equation not nonsense?
It's based on a lot of, guesstimates, basically. It is.
Yeah, but when we only have, we only know of one planet with life on it, how can he extrapolate that, that there should, of every billion there should be at least, 500 planets with intelligent life on it? How do you get there?
It's just based on, he's going by, this is Earth and we're so far and the sun's, so he's just taking those ratios, and I think it's a lot of extrapolation with that. So I'm looking at it right now, and there is some kind of variables you have to plug in. It's like average rate of star formation, the amount of stars that actually have planets, and then it's all these other factors until you get down.
So does anybody have any inclination to whether we'll find any evidence of something in our lifetime?
I don't know. It's honestly, I would like to say yes, but it's also when you understand with SETI the amount of sky they're able to cover, and what there is actually to cover. It's just the odds are stacked against it.
From what I understand, space is really big.
Yep, that's the big problem.
Yeah, it's pretty huge.
Because I think the analogy they've drawn is it's like if you're looking for fish in the sea and you just take out a teaspoon of water and you don't find fish. That's basically the stage we're at with SETI right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I don't know, because it's frustrating. Like, you would love to know if there was something.
But then it's also with the laws of physics being what they are. If we receive any message, we also know that civilization has probably either died out or it's so radically different to when it sent out that message to begin with. Because there is also the question of how would our governments respond to if the concrete solid proof arrived on their door tomorrow.
They cover it up and then...
Yeah, and then only people with the shittest cameras possible could get any kind of remote evidence for it.
Loch Ness Monster sightings have stopped, basically. Since the invention of high definition cameras and phones, sightings of the Loch Ness Monster have come to an end.
Just a few months ago, I saw a new article claiming a Loch Ness Monster sighting. And I had thought that was dead, for that reason precisely.
It's not as prominent as it used to be. It'll be someone who'll come up with one, and it'll be like the usual bloody picture, oh, what's that? But it doesn't get anywhere near the press attention it used to now. I think that's because of the 90s. There was several bio-research teams that did sonar sweeps of the whole loch, and they said, look, there is just nothing here. It's just empty.
I asked a coworker once who believes in Bigfoot whether it's just one single creature that's been alive for 100 years or more, or if there's a whole species of Bigfoot, and either option doesn't fare well for the hypothesis that there's a Bigfoot out there. Because if it's just one, how has he lived this long, and why is he seen in all these different places? And if it's a whole species, why haven't we found them? And his response was, well, it's a whole species of Bigfoot, but they evolved to be more stealthy than us. And
they're giant ape men, but they're stealthy as fuck. That makes perfect sense.
They've crossbred with ninja somewhere along the line.
That's terrifying. One of the arguments for Bigfoot was that, we only recently found platypus. We thought platypus were a myth.
Yeah.
That was 100 years ago, and they're friggin', how big is a platypus? They're fucking tiny. Like a couple of inches big.
Small.
Yeah.
And it's it's not the same. What else aliens related do we have? So, out of science fiction, what would you think is the most
I quite like the whole abyss thing. I like the idea of stuff on our planet that we just haven't found yet. I don't think it's realistic in terms of aliens or any kind of species that has any kind of control or intelligence. But I like the idea that at the bottom of a deep abyss there might be some form of life that we haven't come across yet.
That's a bit more likely than alien life out in the universe, I think. Well, at least in terms of us detecting it.
Yeah. What do you think of life on Venus?
Life on Venus and just that acidic skeleton.
Well, there's bacteria that can live under extremely hot temperatures here on Earth, so not that implausible to say that there might be some bacteria living in the extreme temperatures on Venus.
Mm.
Well, that's your field, Kitch. Do you think we'll ever find at least microbial life anywhere?
It's indeed possible. Microbes can survive anywhere, really. So it's not my particular area, but I can't see why there wouldn't be some form of microbial life somewhere in the universe, provided we don't contaminate it first with our own.
Yeah,
those buggers can stick to anything.
Yeah, because if we find alien bacteria, then it's a fairly safe that somewhere it's kind of evolved to, some kind of intelligent life, maybe.
Well, yeah, Theresa May had to come from somewhere, so.
But if we find something in our solar system, all that's I could just suggest cross contamination. For all we know, life only happened once and only happened here.
Yeah,
that could be it. We could be the only intelligent life, the only thing that's ever locked up and wondered why. This could be it. And once we're gone, that's it, gone again.
That's what, there's a film by Lars von Trier, I don't know if you've ever seen it, called Melancholia. And I hate to bring you spoilers if you haven't seen it, but that's kind of the idea behind that, is that Earth is the last bastion, or rather the only place that life evolved, and it's about to end. And that's what it's about. And it's a really beautiful film. If you've never seen a Lars von Trier film.
It's set in 2017, yeah.
It's the cross between, it's basically that premise, but it's also kind of Nibiru prophecy kind of stuff. It's well worth watching. It's really beautiful. Really beautiful.
I'll have to see that. I do like Lars von Trier a lot. I love his talking fox in the Antichrist movie.
Yeah. This is along the same sort of thing, but it's got some of the best imagery that I've seen in a film. It's very emotional. It feels at first like, a woman whose life is falling apart, basically. But the ending on it is something I'll never forget. It's beautiful and chilling.
But I know we just slightly touched on it, but if there is life from other planets, similar to what happened when the Europeans went to North America, do you think there'd be any crossing of diseases? That could be.
Yeah, I think that's highly likely.
It's interesting, but if something has developed as a disease within our ecosystem, it would mean that it came from the common start of life on our planet. Now, there's no real evidence to say that life on another planet, which had a completely different start, which had a completely different DNA structure, etc., would be affected by our bugs.
Yep, that is true. I agree with you, because bacteria and viruses need certain factors for us, like they need something to bind to in us, and their toxins would need to be specific for what it needs to do. For example, I completely unprepared, but I didn't know we were going to talk about diseases, but dude, what's that bacteria that causes diarrhea? Causes the cholera toxin specific in the gut. So that kind of specificity may prevent that from happening, that kind of thing from happening.
Life on another planet, which has had a very different start to ours, something that has a completely different evolutionary path and evolutionary beginning, something that might have even started in a different way, it might have a different kind of abiogenesis, would potentially have such a vastly different structure in terms of its biological makeup that it wouldn't be able to interact with us in that way, potentially. There would be nothing for, like you said, nothing for it to bind on to. That would be completely different. I mean, one of the reasons that bacteria and viruses, etc., work so well and have evolved with us so well is because they can attack us and they can make us ill to the point where we are poorly enough to go around and spread them amongst other people, but stay alive long enough for us to be able to do so. But they work with us. They've evolved with us.
They find that happy medium.
Exactly, yeah. So when you get a cold, be happy that it's not going to kill you, because that means it gets to live on in your shit. Yay!
What a wonderful image.
What could happen is that if that interaction, that hypothetical interaction, is there long enough, their bacteria are their microbial, I don't want to call them bacteria, but their microbes may shift towards colonizing us. But that'd be I put that in a realm of possibility, but I wouldn't put too much money on it.
Of course, that was the twist at the end of War of the Worlds. Have I ruined that 100-year-old book for everyone?
No.
Did they get nasty cold?
No. So the Mars men came down and basically they weren't prepared to deal with our bacteria, got sick and died. That's just, they were destroying. So the whole thing, the book's about colonization and about what Europeans were doing across Africa. And so the Martians came down, destroyed everything. Humanity was trying to fight back, couldn't. They just were being totally wiped out. But then the protagonist emerges from his shelter just to see the Martian machine just collapsed over and its inhabitants dead because they hadn't figured out a way to deal with our germs.
They're all coughing and trying to grab for Kleenex, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It was the common cold, from what I remember. If Tom Cruise has told me anything, it was the common cold. And Tom Cruise doesn't lie.
Tom Cruise doesn't lie. Has anybody watched, it's totally separate, completely different thing, has anybody watched Preacher on Amazon Prime?
Oh, I love that show. I
watched it. Okay, this is why I can't let my girlfriend leave the house, because what I had big plans for yesterday. Girlfriend was away from the house, just me all day. What I ended up doing was just eating junk food the entire day and sitting up to 6 o'clock in the morning watching Preacher. I watched every episode of Preacher consecutively last night.
The comic book series is excellent as well. It's about a supernatural alien being gets kicked out of heaven. There's a union between a demon and an angel, which is forbidden in the spiritual realms. Their offspring gets kicked out of heaven or the spiritual realm or whatever, comes to Earth, invades the body of a Texas preacher, and he basically becomes God on Earth. He becomes equipped with the voice of God, so he can like switch into God mode and speak, and whatever he says happens. People have to like obey his word against their will.
I don't know if the TV show went as far as the comics did in that regard with some of the things he did.
No,
Like,
did
did the go fuck yourself happen in the TV show?
Unfortunately not.
Yeah, that's quite unreal in the comics. What happens
What,
there?
he actually goes and fucks himself?
He cuts off his own penis and then starts rogering himself.
Oh, okay.
That's something I didn't think I'd hear in this show.
Basically, this is Garth Ennis's writing, and if you read Garth Ennis comics, it's always weird, fucked up shit like this.
But the TV show did manage to become, even though it doesn't have as much of the edge as the comics does, it's still pretty out there as far as weirdness and bizarreness goes, and that's what makes it great.
I was watching it, and as I was watching it, I was like, there were certain scenes, especially in the first episode, because I imagine that this scene would have looked much better in the frame of a comic book, you know, and it didn't look quite right on the screen on TV, and I was assuming that then after that they were like probably not doing that as much after maybe the first few episodes, maybe not sticking tightly to it, but I could see that they had cleaned it up. I was very, very abundantly clear that it wasn't nearly as graphic as the comic was.
I think that opening scene in the first episode was deliberately designed to look kind of fake, like the outer space scene. I think their intention was to make it look cartoonish. Partly because that film didn't have the budget to do a realistic outer space scene, but also because the cartoonish look to it kind of fit with the theme of the story.
Yeah, but saying that, like, even though we've made Garth Ennis's writing sound really fucked up, he is still a phenomenal writer, and all this weird shit works within the context of his stories.
I like weird shit. I think there should be more weird shit about. I'm getting bored of the same formulaic bullshit.
Well, if you're wanting something to read, just look up any comic written by Garth Ennis.
Okay, cool.
But he's such a bloody good writer. It's compelling, even though there's this bizarre stuff he always throws in. But he's so good as a writer, it works.
I wish he'd been involved in the most recent John Wick, because the first one was awesome. The second one was kind of formulaic.
Yeah, I like I've got bored of quite a lot of things as late, but no, I really enjoyed Preacher now, regardless.
Oh, cool.
Did you read the comic book?
I didn't read the comic. I more times I went to buy that comic and I just never did. And I thought, okay, I'll read this first before I watch it. But I've never actually done that. I've always made the point of reading it first and then watching it. But now this will be interesting, watching that first and now going back and reading it. So and that was good. I was happy with that. Like so anything. And I'm sure the comic's only going to add to that. Add layers to it and creepiness to it.
Yeah.
Look, I've got a question for our Scottish viewers and also for Kitch's football team sponsors. Are you fast?
In what way fast?
Is Buck fast?
Am I fast?
Oh, right. Yes. Okay, yes.
Are we
Come
buck
on,
fast? We're making a buck fast comment.
Yeah.
Lurgan, that's what we call it, 40 down wine, we call that over here.
40 down wine.
40 down wine. Buck fast. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
Buck-
quality of my jokes. That is like the best. That is the best joke that I can do. So I didn't even get a groan.
I thought you were going somewhere completely different with that.
I thought it was just like is this like a sexual comment you're making?
No,
or like-
I was gonna go to Rogers. Does Buck Rogers? But then I didn't think anyone would know what Buck Rogers was. So
I'm thinking that would have been more sexual. Does he Roger?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Does he, Roger?
Does he Roger? Yeah.
He Roger Rabbit.
Bloody hell. Kitcha, you become... Is Angry Pumpkin controlling you right now going down these kind of routes?
No, I've just been in Cork far too long.
Alright.
Is that a euphemism?
Unfortunately, no.
Everyone's currently trying to figure out how that's a euphemism. That's why everybody is quiet.
Oh, it didn't take me long.
second.
It took me only a second. That's why I'm being quiet. This is a family show, damn it.
Oh yes, obviously a family show.
A fucked up family show.
If this show's going to get hate mail, I want the really good quality stuff. Like I say, I love videos of people reading their hate mail just when it's so incoherent, some of it.
No, it's that's what I've said. I've been very clear, very vocal in my. I like the really hateful, mean-spirited stuff. When it's just Buck again. It's like fair enough. Sort of hurt a little bit. Like they have to. If when you see a video that's like outweighed with like more hate, I do a podcast called Things That I Find Interesting, which a significant portion of the audience hate. And you go down through the comment section of it, and actually no, it's a lot more positive comments. I stopped going to read it here, but it's
I love the one with concordance.
I just love talking to Concordance. Oh my god, he's great just to listen to.
Yeah.
Well, I've made the comment before that it's like you feel smarter the more you talk to him.
I know, I feel the exact opposite. I'm like, I was sitting there, you're talking to him, and he'll just off the top of his head, he'll say something more eloquent than you could say written down, and then I come back with
Talking about hate mail, did you see the one that I posted on Facebook and Twitter the other day from that guy who got found out by his missus? That was fun, wasn't it? That's one of the most fun ones I've had for a while. Shall I read it out?
Go first.
Oh no, well, yeah, why not?
Is it a bit
It's going to
too
be a
hard?
weird show, this, for everyone to listen to.
It's got nothing to do with aliens unless you think this guy's an alien. I don't know. And it just started out, you're so stupid and ugly, it's ridiculous. I can't believe you used to be a whore and now you think you can make it in science. You're unbelievably unattractive. You're an old hag with a nasty body and you posted pictures even though that family members follow you. You're honestly ridiculously unattractive. You're literally a tranny looking dumb whore. I never want to see anything from you ever again. I never want to even know you existed ever again. I never want to look at Twitter ever again.
You've hurt this person. You've somehow genuinely hurt this person. You've broke this person's heart.
I think that's the ultimate in you can't fire me, I quit kind of mentality.
They got found out by either a family member or their wife that they were showing their penis to people on the internet, and
right.
that was I hadn't even said anything, which I made it even more hilarious. And that's what I got. I love it. I was laughing the whole way through. I thought it was brilliant.
That's
just
compliment level hate mail right there.
It's good. It's not as good as some of the stuff that you get from flat earthers when you put out videos about them, which can be fun. As Marty knows, Marty's got some good hate mail.
The hate mail Marty's got over the years, Martimer's hate mail. Have you seen those, Buck? Marty reading his hate mail?
No, I haven't. It's...
You know Mortimer, though?
Yeah, I do surely, yes. So I haven't watched any of that. I've looked one of those up. I think I've only watched Hitchens. I've watched Richard Dawkins do his hate mail.
Oh, he's a good,
which is always hilarious.
Well, speaking of Coughlin, go and watch his hate mail videos. They're quite hilarious because he gets hate mails from Nazis and all that, so it gets quite interesting.
You upset a Nazi? Oh my god.
Well, he goes out to debunk Nazis sometimes, and they don't respond in the best of spirits to him.
You wouldn't expect that of a Nazi, would you?
No, not at all. All right, I think we can wrap this up, whatever this is going to become.
Okay, sounds good. Well, that was our show. I hope you enjoyed it. It was good and rambly, like sometimes I think it should be. Kind of mix things up and get away from like routine a little bit. Nothing wrong with that.
Yes, that was my intention from the start. I actually had
totally
watched
planned,
it.
wasn't it?
Totally planned.
No, I actually really did enjoy this.
I enjoyed this a lot too.
Yeah.
If you're a dedicated listener and a fan and would like to support us, you can on Patreon. Donation of $5 or more per episode gets you access to bonus content such as extended interviews if we do them, and also early access to the shows before they go up. And we'd like to thank our two patrons, Microbloganism, check out his channel, and Josh at the Society for the Advancement of Science. Thank you both for your support. It means a lot to us. Leave us a review on iTunes or on whatever other platform you're listening to us on. That helps us out as well. And is there anything I'm missing?
Yeah, send us your hate mail and make it as abusive as possible, please.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes.
Extra points for intentional bad grammar and caps lock is essential.
Transphobia is also brilliant, so bring that on.
And I missed this in the pre-show. Is Buck coming back on in the near future?
Yes, to do what we had intended to do.
Yes. Okay, so look for that as well. And thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Buck, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and I apologise profusely for having to shake
It's all
things up.
good.
Is this one of these things? Do we have to keep this quiet from Miles and James right now? Or will they rip the piss out of you for this?
No, I can't take the piss out of me. I'm great.
Alright, we do it anyway, okay. I was wondering if we had some blackmail leverage to...
Alright, well, thank you everybody for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Alright, cheers.
Bye.
So this species is so many thousand years ahead of us in technology. Wants to come and trade with the species that invented the iWatch and then put Pokemon Go on it.
Yeah.
No. That's just,
And whose greatest adventure for 2016 was exploding phones.
exploding phones.
And it sounds really Earth-centric, like projecting our political systems out into the universe. Like if there's a civilization thousands or millions of light years away, he's assuming that they have the same exact or approximating the same kind of political systems that we would have. Doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, like, what would alien contact mean for humanity?
Brexit.
Brexit.
Or Galaxit.
Galactic. We're voting ourselves out of this.
Voting ourselves out the Milky Way.
Well, under a Trump presidency and with Brexit going on, it wouldn't fare well for anybody if aliens showed up.
You don't think it would be one of those things that would like pull everybody together into this massive sort of, we are the human race and we will fight a common enemy? All that kind of stuff, like it's in movies all the time.
Okay, right. So that's when I was saying contact, I was meaning the fairly like peaceful, or even just finding something out there.
Yeah.
We find a
All
signal.
right, yeah.
Right. So like a phone call or something, they ring up and go, look.
Not
hey,
even a phone call. If we
Like
pick
the,
up a radio signal, we pick up their version of Seinfeld. Just something like that.
Yeah.
We've got this new satellite constellation that they're putting up there, which is almost ready, and some of it is kind of already failing because they've got their stupid atomic clocks fucked up in them. Right? What if that plus the newest iPhone is like the method of contact, and all of a sudden people with iPhones are just getting mysterious calls from somewhere in the galaxy and they can't translate it?
Yeah,
Star Trek episode. That's probably where you came across it, is it?
There's
But yeah, the idea is that you could build like a huge chain of satellites to envelop a sun and harness all the energy out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the part people remember, but it was part of a bigger philosophical question that if you're at the technological level where you could do that, it would be an utter waste of time just to do it, because you would probably be able to do so much. There's so many other better things you could do with your time. It would just be, it's so huge. And if you can do that, then you can do far more practical things. That's kind of the problem this Dyson guy was going for.
Is it the same guy who invented the Dyson Hoover?
Yes.
No.
The exact same person.
Was it?
Is that the same person?
No, I'm not joking.
It's a giant sun Hoover.
Freeman Dyson.
That
was the guy's name. Yeah. Well, that's what everyone remembers the Dyson sphere from, was an episode of Star Trek which involved one. And again, they just kind of embellished it a little bit to make it a bit more kind of accessible to an audience.
Oh, cool.
But I'd say, I'm just basically about alien contact. The other good source it's another science fiction, is Solaris. I don't know if anyone's seen the...
It's on the list to watch. The original.
The original is
Brilliant.
the good one. The remake with
George
Clooney.
George Clooney is not that great, but...
I quite enjoyed it still. I enjoyed the musical score more than anything else, though, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you read the original book, it's about that idea that basically the planet was actually trying to communicate with them and they just couldn't comprehend what it was trying to do. And it's the whole thesis of the book is that, if we ever meet an intelligent life, like Stanislav Lem's opinion was, we'd just never be able to communicate with it. Because it will just be completely alien to us.
Ants have no comprehension that we're there. They maybe they'll avoid us, but they don't recognize a human being or this is another living thing or anything. It's just avoid this. Possible?
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, come on.
I was going to ask, did anyone else here watch Arrival when it was on at the cinemas?
Yeah, I did. This is great.
Because that addresses kind of quite a lot of the issues with an initial contact. Just like I said, it was the simple question, what is your purpose? And they said just even sending that sentence just to a completely alien species, it would take so much understanding and kind of trying to bridge this gap. Even just that initial contact would just be so difficult.
And if they were, this is, and Neil deGrasse Tyson put this out, it's, we share 99.9% of our DNA with chimpanzees, right? A chimpanzee, basic tools, maybe. Very, very, it can just about figure out how to stick a twig down an ant hole and tick out ants. Just about, and that's some of the smart ones, right? That's 99.9% identical to us, right? So the chimpanzees don't understand mathematics, they don't understand language, they don't understand. But we're like this. We're not even a mystery to them. They see us and they're scared of us. They're not really that concerned with us, right? So if there is something, just even that small amount different from us out there, that we aren't even going to be fit to comprehend it, we could be staring straight at it and completely missing it.
You're talking about Donald Trump there, aren't you?
His dim, uncomprehending eyes.
Glorious leader, I like to call him. So, did anything ever come off that? Remember the domosphere, where they thought that potentially that there was a star. It was covered in an unusual way because it's and so what they someone is it Dyson, what's that called again, like a Dyson sphere?
A Dyson sphere. A lot of people misunderstand that concept.
I'm probably one of those people.
Yeah, everyone thinks so from the start.
I take it that everybody here, does anyone believe that aliens have visited Earth?
Not me.
I've not seen evidence for it.
No, sir. Not this time anyway.
I hope not.
You hope not. I think it'd be awesome.
Because if they visited the recent past, say 2016, they're not coming back. Ever.
Hello and welcome to Trolling with Logic, where we bring the hammer down on pseudoscience, ignorance, and unreason on a bi-weekly basis. I'm your host, Nathan. With me is Cal.
Alright, how's it going?
It's going well. And Jen?
Hey, I forgot my clothes, but not as bad as somebody.
And Kitch.
I did have a great line opening, but now it's gone.
I apologize for that. That's my fault.
And joining us as our guest today is Buck Mulligan, who is known probably to many of our listeners as a frequent host of the League of Nerds podcast. And we were going to do a movie review of a fundamentalist Christian propaganda film called Rocket's Your Decision, but Buck hasn't watched it, so we're all about communication here. And so we're going to talk about something else today. And
I'm just wondering, did you do an alternative viewing, Buck? Seeing as that's the phrase of the day.
Alternative viewing. I should have just sat and bullshitted. I should have just
Oh yeah, I remember that bit.
I remember that,
and
but
that.
Explain that bit. Oh yeah, now I remember it very clearly. The guy with the hair and the
To
thing.
be fair, you could have guessed most of it.
Sure, their logic was sound throughout.
It's a standard Christian propaganda film, but that's for next week, guys.
Yeah,
it's
Spoiler alert. Major spoiler alert.
It's basically the reefer madness of anti-rock movies.
Okay. I didn't even know anti-rock movies were a genre till now.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Anyway, Nathan, carry on.
So we are talking about alien contact in general today. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yep, this is...
It's something that I suggested, so I'm just, some shit that I threw out there as an apology.
So,
I was touched by an alien.
All right.
Yeah.
That's why you voted leave.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, Buck, as the leading expert and well-researched man you are on this topic, take it away.
This thing that I just pulled out of my ass last second, about 18 seconds ago. I stumbled upon a Stefan Mercer's video, Molyneux video, and basically he was explaining that if aliens made contact with us, that clearly if they have that technology, it's because that they were libertarians, because only libertarians, seriously, only libertarians would ever come to this sort of technology, and they wouldn't come in to steal our resources; they'd be coming to trade with us. And I was sitting listening to this, and I'm like, so this species, which has potentially fast, 99% the speed of light,